Hi friends, so as planned, we're meeting at Bastien from Karmaterre's place in the middle of his fruit forest. To talk to you a little bit about fruit forests and to show you what a fruit forest is and one that's been running for quite a few years. Let's start with a brief introduction, then take a tour, the most interesting part. So hi, how are you? Yes.
Hi, I'm good, thanks.
Can you introduce yourself and the project and tell us what you're doing for us?
Welcome to the garden. So we're here in the middle, I think more or less in the garden that used to be a meadow. We started this about 13 years ago when I left school, so I really got into everything related to gardening, self-sufficiency and building cabins. That's what I used to do before going to school and what I picked up again afterwards, so that's how it is. 13 years ago we started by making a traditional garden up here. We did a little plowing, we made a small classic garden, then little by little.
Classic with plowing.
That's it, classic with plowing. And so already in the first year, almost self-sufficient in vegetables, well, at least self-sufficient for the season. And so first revelation, I don't need to go to the supermarket, that's awesome. I can feed myself here, I wake up, I pick my vegetables, and that's it, so awesome. And little by little, the passion for fruit trees also came. After a few years living together, experimenting, mainly with vegetables and market gardening, we introduced permaculture concepts like beds and design. So we worked together a lot on that, and at the end of that, I started planting trees everywhere. My passion for fruit trees naturally led to a forest garden, call it a garden or whatever you like.
So permaculture and fruit forest were 10 to 13 years ago for you, right?
No, it wasn't 12 years ago, it was 8 or 9 years ago.
All right.
It's been 8 or 9 years since it appeared, let's say, in everyday language in France, a little.
So before C, it was a meadow a farmer used. No, rest is incomplete.
It was a meadow for 30 years, only mowed by the neighbor since the owners didn't live here.
Okay, so no treatment, right? No
treatment, nothing for 30 years, that's it.
So you started from a meadow, that's a question that comes up often. So starting from a meadow or starting from a forest, which one is better? So then the whole area you used, was it just meadow or did you already have a part with trees?
No, it was just a meadow with only some trees on the edge. We'll see it in a moment, but it has a big boundary to the property. Actually, there are trees that grow naturally. I didn't do anything. They just came on their own, so that's how it is. We've owned the property for just over 13 years, so the trees are about 15 years old. They grew naturally. There's a large ash tree on the south side of the property, along with a few hawthorns.
That's all. It's up there, it's huge. And how big is the field?
The field is now 4,000 square meters. It was slightly larger before we split it up to sell the house. I only kept the part of the field where the garden was. We had another part that was a chicken coop, but here the garden, now it's about 4,000 square meters more or less.
To me, 4,000 doesn't seem like much given all the diversity. It's really okay, 4,000 square meters, great, it's well filled. And the bells are ringing. Is it going to work? No, it's just a single ring. So today, what's this project about? So it's a fruit forest, but is it a public place, shared, community-based or professional? What are you doing here?
It's a mix of everything, a bit from every part of my life. I mostly live here in the summer and less in the winter. Once the cabin is finished, I'll be able to stay more during winter. It's also the place where an association called Karmaterre is based, where we try to open up to the public, to share. So the know-how in gardening, but also in eco-construction, we also try, at the same time, the association is there to energize local life as well, meaning that the participants in the association, we do activities together. And what we earn in money, we buy pots to do processing, we press fruit, buy equipment that will be used locally, so to transport the fruits from the garden.
Well, great, we find quite a lot of things. Well, listen, I still have quite a few questions to ask you, but I think I'll ask them while we're walking around the place. For example, a common question is, what do you grow in a fruit forest? You have a lot of fruit trees, you also grow some vegetables, and you have a greenhouse in the back for production. You said you were self-sufficient in vegetables your first year. Are you still 10, 12 years later?
When I left school, my goal was to prove we could do it, even though people said you couldn't make it on your own. So I wanted to become self-sufficient at all costs, even to the point of being completely self-reliant. Today, that's changed in my mind. I don't necessarily want to be completely self-sufficient anymore because I like interacting with the outside world, and everyone has their own specialty and something they're a bit better at. I have a friend who makes salads like that, and those are the ones I want. I really enjoy that exchange. But still, since then, this year, since April, I haven't bought any fruit, I haven't bought any vegetables except for 3 onions, and that's it. And on top of that, I trade for cheese if I want or need it, so...
Do you already have a surplus? I have...
A surplus, yeah, okay.
Well, listen, see...
That's already not bad.
Great, great, great. Well, listen, maybe we'll start by talking about zoning in the garden, but as we begin the tour, I'll let you lead the way and then we'll take a look at everything. Alright, yeah, let's go. Alright, here we go.
So, welcome to my Zone 0. Right now we're next to my little cabin here, which is currently being expanded. For now I can only stay there in the summer since my bedroom is there and there's a small outdoor kitchen behind it. And here we're building another small cabin which will be insulated with straw and clay. I'll be able to spend the winter inside without any problem. And from there, right from my living area, there's my first vegetable garden area, which is the greenhouse. So that's where most of my vegetable production happens because it's really easy and you'll see right away how beautiful it is. So welcome to the greenhouse. So we can start right away by introducing a little one, a small mandarin, the Satsuma mandarin. You probably saw it in the video at Cecile's place with the archipelago. Since this one has no fruit, we'll check another that does. Last time we discussed resistant varieties. This one is a grapevine called Isabel. So this vine here is about 3 years old. No, it's 3 years old for sure. And it has still taken over the whole greenhouse. It goes all the way around. So you might wonder why grow grapes in a greenhouse when they do just fine outside, right, grapes? In 3 years the vine has grown huge. This year it produced 20 kilos of grapes. For its 3rd year, that's still a good start. And with all the trees I have in the greenhouse this year, I see a resilience to the heat. That is, it's not as hot as it used to be. When there weren't any trees, there was a kind of humidity, a lingering dampness that stayed a bit longer, and that's really good for everything else too. The fact that my cabin is on the sunny side and the wind as well, and there the whole greenhouse stays in the shade at least until 10 in the morning, and it's the same. It also helps that the greenhouse doesn't get too hot. I think the vegetables like it.
The little tomatoes there, they're still really beautiful. Me, this season, I only have plants outside and they're starting to get damaged, whereas here you can see that the tomatoes are still fine.
I had fun this year letting them crawl on the ground. Now I don't prune them. This year I plan to create a small vegetable garden in the greenhouse with tidy rows and enjoyed pruning them. And I admit that it's pretty nice, it's quite pleasant. So we mix in some flowers underneath. Some marigolds and next to them beautiful peonies that thrive this year. Small peonies with some nasturtiums underneath too. Then we have eggplants with basil underneath, so there's always a little mix going on.
You were talking about citrus fruits, so you mean mandarins and all that? Do you have citrus production, lemon mandarins? I
don't.
No, what are you able to produce?
I'm going to introduce them to you. First, let me introduce this perennial buckwheat which regrows each year. I start eating the leaves from the greenhouse in March. I ate some earlier this year and I'm eating some now. I mow it from time to time when the stems get too big and we eat the leaves raw or cooked. No problem.
That's what's growing everywhere there?
That's what's growing everywhere. One year I laid them down, covered them with straw, and they grew stems in all directions. Underneath, little elephant here. Come on, the citrus, the citrus, the citrus, the citrus. Yeah, that's it. Here, there's plenty. Here are some small mandarins. The Satsuma mandarin tree can survive temperatures as low as 12 degrees, but only if its roots aren't soaked during freezing. This one is grafted onto Poncirus, a citrus variety that survives temperatures as low as 25 degrees. It's one of the few citrus trees that loses its leaves and is used for grafting other varieties. On top, they share the resistance. So if it could only withstand -6 before, now it can handle up to -12. Pay close attention to rootstocks. They must be Poncirus. There's another type I forget, but always use Poncirus.
So the rootstock on citrus trees, does it change their resistance to cold or not necessarily?
Yes, the resistance to cold.
Oh yes, okay.
It will cut the part 2, for instance, or its resistance.
Okay. And finally, for me, that brings up a question. So, do you need to know a lot when you want to start something like this? Really? Regarding grafts, rootstocks, varieties, and regions, what works or doesn't depends on where you live.
Yes, it's better to get information about it. For your soil, if you have waterlogged soil, if you have drier soil, if it's more clayey, more draining, it's still pretty important to choose rootstocks that are suited to that.
It's important to know your land first.
It's good to know your
Land. Maybe a knowledgeable nurseryman. See?
That's it. If the person doesn't know their subject, doesn't know what it's grafted onto, right?
What is it? Is it passion fruit behind the fruit?
Of passion. Welcome to passion fruit. Here are some lovely passion fruits. This is the incarnata. We use both its leaves and flowers as medicine. There's a little flower left. I feel like it's not very pretty, but still it's there. They're usually prettier than that.
What are your minimum temperatures here?
Here, usually we get below -10 for periods of 2 weeks. It happened in 2011 that we had -19 degrees, but again, only for a very short period. But that means there are a lot of things here that will need to be well protected so they can withstand it. I think it's worth it, especially since we rarely get below -20.
Below -10 it holds up well. For temperatures colder than -10, watch the weather and prepare.
And incarnata, we could plant it outside because it can handle the roots at -14. Not everyone goes below that, and it comes back every year. The leaves die at -7, but then for me the fruits ripen better in a greenhouse because of their long ripening time, right? But it can also do well against a stone wall. There is you need to have 2 plants in order to have pollination and actually get fully developed fruits. And then when I pick them and sometimes keep them until February. So it's a good fruit for the winter. We can show the inside, for example. This one is empty. There you go. Mist. It's true that, let's see if there's a full one. This one will be full. That's true. You can see the seeds aren't filled yet. When mature, they're more yellow.
There you go.
There you go. It's not ripe, right?
I grew up in Africa and these kinds of fruits used to grow all around the house. And to think that it's possible to grow them in France, that's just amazing.
That's what I thought too when I saw the list of fruit trees there actually are. And most of them can survive here, so I wondered, why don't we have these back home? When we could have so much more than just apples and pears, which I love and will keep growing. But we can really expand the varieties. And above all, what's interesting is that my goal actually, in the end, is not to have to make preserves. That is, I want to have fresh fruit all year round. So now I'm trying to have apple trees that are as late as possible and as early as possible. And also to have fruits like that, which will come in succession. So to ensure you have 3 or 4 kinds of vegetables or fruits daily in winter, we can have persimmons, preserved apples, passion fruits, kiwis and kiwi berries. And we'll find others, that's for sure.
Yeah. So the greenhouse allows you to, like you said, extend the production period, right? Yeah, and maybe to produce some things that you couldn't grow here without a greenhouse.
That's right, I wouldn't be able to do it otherwise, like turmeric, which I think would freeze outside. And it allows for a longer growing season. This one here is 3 years old, these big leaves here.
Turmeric, yeah. And underneath, that's lemongrass.
Underneath, lemongrass is everywhere.
We're deep in the tropics here. We're in sales with everything that comes with it.
With all the plants, we just need the parrot.
Yeah.
Standing before a psyllium plant, we had what we call a strawberry here. Here there are 2 varieties. There's the red variety and the yellow variety. So it's a shrub that can only withstand down to -7, -8 at most. So for this one I still plan to bring it into the shed to protect it. But believe it or not, it produces small guavas that when fully ripe taste like banana with a hint of resin. Guava basically. It's absolutely delicious.
You can taste it just like that, right?
You can taste it. Here, let me see your face.
Well, actually I tasted one just before, but it's so...
Good. What? See?
What's happening? What's going on? Ah, that's excellent.
Yeah, it's so good.
Is this akebia? Yeah.
Here's an akebia on top. It can pollinate itself, but it's good to have other varieties so they can cross-pollinate. What? Behind we have a kind of medlar that hasn't given me any medlars yet. I'm getting a bit discouraged. This year it set fruit better than usual, but in the end they didn't start to grow. And here, this is a spot where I did some chop and drop. It's an evergreen shrub that grew so large I couldn't grow anything beneath it. So I cut all the branches and put them on the ground, basically mulching them. And I was able to plant my vegetables. And so this year I was able to grow vegetables underneath again. What I can also say about the greenhouse is that it's been here for 7 years now. I've spent 7 years mulching, gathering leaves from the forest and bringing straw. Now I'm starting to have spots where I can really put my hand 10-6 inches under the soil, no problem. It's crumbly, it's really beautiful. Now I can do it myself. During the big heat waves in summer, I water once a week. I water thoroughly, but just once a week. Only twice when it's very hot and the plants need it. Otherwise, that's all.
And so in the greenhouse it must need quite a bit of water, still, yeah.
Yeah, still. I think about 1 liter per week, that's what I give, one watering.
Per week, I mean, I do less in the garden, but outside, because sometimes it benefits from the rain. But here, you never get rain then?
No, here, never any rain, so yeah.
Do you collect greenhouse rainwater?
No, rainwater is just rainwater. If greenhouse rainwater still drains into the pond, the plan now is to install large water tanks with the cabins to store water in spring. Everything you need, right? During the winter I still have a pond, so it's connected directly to it, and I move the hose to different places and it waters where it's needed. And that's enough. So if it rains about every week, I move the hose each week to water a different spot in the greenhouse. In winter, I rarely water the greenhouse since it stays damp.
Well, you weren't going to deny it afterwards.
Yeah, with beautiful banana trees. For me, that's classic banjo, right? It's a small banjo I put in the greenhouse to multiply quickly. It's now growing little shoots underneath. First, I want to add an exotic touch to the garden, and I don't just use trees for growing vegetables or fruits. I don't expect this one to bear fruit, though it might if it keeps getting warmer. Either way, it will provide me with beautiful plates in summer, and I won't have to do the dishes anymore. And so down there we see another variety of citrus. I found this one by chance at a small nursery this winter. Sometimes you find new things, even when you think you know all the varieties. And then, boom, you stumble upon something new that nobody has, that no big nursery has. And there it is, a small nursery offering it. It's a rough lemon. It's a lemon that comes from Ain and apparently in France, grown from seed. It can already withstand temperatures as low as minus 15 degrees. It would be a better lemon to eat than the Poncirus, which can survive temperatures down to minus 25. But it produces lemons that are full of tartaric acid. You can't do much with it besides making very bitter marmalade, so I have high hopes for what this one will produce. My most beautiful citrus, the United States 119, hasn't produced fruit yet, but doesn't look especially appealing. So it's an orange that's supposed to taste like banana, we'll see. This one is already 4 or 5 years old, it looks nice, but hasn't produced fruit yet. On the other hand, here we have a banana tree that could actually produce fruit. I think it's the Himalayan. Let's check this one. It tolerates temperatures below 12 degrees, so I'll protect it. Banana trees should produce fruit the next year. With this type, if this one dies, there won't be any fruit, right? This one really has to survive this year so that next year it can produce a flower and then bear fruit. Maybe. Here we have another variety of citrus. It's citringe coat, so it's a mix between a mandarin, a citringe and a coat. It's a big genetic mix. We'll see what results. There are many varieties.
Actually, otherwise we just stop at orange, mandarin, clementine, grapefruit, lemon. But in reality there are so many more.
There's one more that just arrived, a little baby. After that it's... Because I went to Chep's place not long ago. And so here's a little pomelo, and this one is the pink pomelo and him. So it can withstand up to minus 7 degrees.
Okay, so in the greenhouse
It's fine in the greenhouse or indoors. My lime quad sometimes freezes but regrows each year and tolerates minus 6 degrees. But anyway, same thing, I'll bring it inside during the risky period just for the pleasure of having it. There's also a pomelo called Enzo that can reportedly handle minus 17, so we'll see.
Well, that's great.
All right.
There's a lot in there. Let's go outside. Come on.
We're not showing you everything.
As we move forward, so I have a quick question. How do you get a tree? Do you grow your own trees and graft them, or do you buy everything from nurseries? How do you handle it?
But once again, I pick from everything. from everywhere. I mean, I go into the forest, I collect seeds, I collect small trees from the forest. I did that often when I started and had little money but really wanted to plant. I went to look for medlar trees in the woods, I went to look for elderberries in the woods, I went to look for small laurels, I went to look for hawthorns, I went to look for them. There you go, by bringing back mulch and leaves from the forest, some walnut trees start appearing here and there. I do a lot of sowing with my own seeds in the garden, so all my peach trees, I reseed them, I plant them everywhere, and I keep the ones I want. I do research on the internet, so sometimes I come across nurseries. I go to the nurseries near my place for more classic varieties. I do cuttings, everything you mentioned before, actually, I do it, yes.
A bit of everything, you know.
Everything.
By the way, right now in terms of planting density, do you still have space, so places where you still plant, or do you...
Yes, when it comes to big trees, I'm starting to be more or less okay, but there's still some space. With my current approach, I want even more trees in between, even if I'll need to prune them later, to add more organic matter to the soil. I could say there are enough, since as things grow, they find their place. I'm going to add more to create a stronger dynamic, a real forest, yes, that's it. There may be more maintenance and pruning, so stability won't last. The forest, because if I stop now, in 4 or 5 years it will become a dense closed forest. If I plant ash trees here, I'll create a forest dynamic, but if I'm gone, they'll grow and fully shade the border.
Yes, so the ash tree we were talking about earlier, it's back there. So you can see that in terms of height, it's the tallest one in the area. Then yes, I guess they're not all fully grown, but they're starting to get pretty tall. Nearby, some trees are about 2 to 4 meters tall. Yes, 4 or 5 bamboos, maybe more there.
We're going to clear out little by little. So toward the oldest part, meaning that's where I started planting the first trees. Before heading to the oldest part of the garden, we can show this area here. A pond we dug together is now completely empty. We invited about 20 friends, telling them, bring your shovel and dig your pond. So that's what we did, and what's interesting here is to show everything. It's kind of the wild part of the garden, and everything we see here is... I didn't buy any. I went into the forest to get cuttings or small plants. To the right, to the left. There you go.
The pond, that's the one I was talking about, which fills up with rain a bit on the greenhouse.
Yeah, with the rain a bit on the greenhouse, except that for now it's so dry that all the water is absorbed by the ground. Yeah.
So where are we now?
Mid-October, right?
End of summer, actually.
There wasn't much summer? Yeah, no.
So it's not covered. Is it clay for you?
Clay, yes. You can dig down 3 or 4 meters and still find clay.
So it holds water most of the year. Does it create a wet area around it for you?
Yeah. Normally it stays until August. There's just a little bit of water left, and usually it's full until mid-July. It's full, right? But this year it's been dry since June, and now it's still dry.
Yeah.
Yes, so the ground here is just clay. So in the winter it was a very hydromorphic, yeah. So the bacteria couldn't work. Now that the trees are planted and it's drained, I can grow anything. So let's head to the oldest part of the garden. Here you can see medlars beginning to grow. These aren't griffé medlars. These wild medlars are thriving and look beautiful. I'm very pleased. Subtitles by 501. Subtitles. Ever since these soils have been here, actually they're master soils. Ever since these trees have been here, they've finally started to grow. And so that's it, I'm starting to get fruit on them, they're starting to develop. It's funny that these 13-year-old fruit trees are smaller than some of my 6-year-old ones. So you can really see how they suffered actually from the waterlogged soil.
You mean you have trees that you planted more recently that look better than the first ones you planted? Oh yes, okay.
We can look at what's there too. I have a plum tree here. The plum tree you see here, the one that was on the screen earlier, which is behind him, Here, it's 13 years old, let's go here, you can come here. Do you see the big one there, the biggest one? It's a plum tree. This one is 6 years old, it's 6 years old. It grew from a seed, you know. So you can see the difference in growth, the ability to grow. It's completely multiplied compared to our cuttings, compared to
all that, you could say that one of the priorities before starting to plant trees could be to first make sure the soil is good, to structure the soil well, and then plant the permanent trees. That kind of matches the process of a forest in the wild. First you'll have what we call the pioneer trees, and then the fruit trees could come after. Forest trees come later, but we can start by planting pioneer trees for structure.
That's right, and actually that's what I did. I went looking for fruit trees that weren't expensive, like elderberry, like loquat, things like that. I got them and then let things unfold. That's when I realized you sometimes just have to let things be. There are these soils that have settled, which I didn't come to cut. And that too, it's a whole process of unlearning, because the first instinct is, oh, you have to cut, you have to clean, it has to be tidy. And if I had done that, I would still have my problem of soil suffocation, whereas today I don't have that problem anymore. And besides, these soils that were quite large, I can finally start trimming them. And now we're entering another process where we're trying to do it by trimming. We're inducing stress in the soil. We're also bringing a lot of material back to the ground, because you can see it everywhere. Now I'm really starting to pile it up. And here, these are aronia berries. So the aronia berries here, they grew this year, they grew this much. They grew almost 50 centimeters next to this tree that was stressed and pruned twice this year. I also have aronia berries from the same plant grown in identical conditions, which are older but did not have the benefit of pruning a tree next to them to stress it out. And they have hardly grown over the last 3 years, but these ones, they grew 50 cm all at once. That just goes to show that there are plenty of techniques coming along little by little that we're discovering, that we're experimenting with, and that we don't fully master yet, because it's a lot of experimentation. But we could make things grow much, much faster than what we've been doing up until now.
Yes, yes, yes. So what is that then? Is it professional agroforestry?
Agroforestry, centropic agriculture, yes.
Alright, it's a bit like that. We talked about it during the live, so if anyone didn't quite understand, maybe go check out the live. Or look up centropic agriculture. It starts with the observation that pruning stresses a tree, causing it to regrow quickly. That's it, it will send the message. It needs to grow, and as a result, it stimulates all the plants around it. And so it works, it does.
It works, awesome. And not only does it produce mulch, but it also produces mulch around it. We said last time that the roots keep working underneath, they die, they bring life, so there's work happening in every direction. So now we have earthworms working with us. All the insects, all this mulch on the ground, all these branches, they attract many insects. There are many large green lizards in there. And there you go, let's see the result of all this.
And in terms of vegetation, have you worked a lot on it? So what do we call the layers? Canopy, shrub, herbaceous, ground cover, climbers, roots, etc.
For now, I'm mainly focused on finding my trees, let's say the canopy ones, which are planted. I'm going to add one more, but it's pretty much done. These are the bushes I know will stay small. There's some of that everywhere, especially since these ones like the shade and struggle. Even in full sun, aronias remain plants from cold regions. And I couldn't work on it from the start, but whenever I plant something, I think about the layer it's going to be in. What kind of shade passes through here? How is it? So I'm constantly thinking about it. After the herbaceous layer, it's gradually forming. I have places where I planted damask roses. They're good ground cover, they spread everywhere. And what's good is that they play the same role as brambles. So instead of spreading out like brambles and forming a 2-meter high thicket, here this damask rose not only gives me beautiful flowers, but also it doesn't grow too tall. It stays under my fruit trees, which means I don't need to go there to mulch, I don't need to go there to cut the grass. I just let it be and pick the fruit at the right time. I'm working on that, and I have many plants slowly reseeding themselves. Last time people mentioned salsify, cardoon, evening primrose and salad burnet to me. There are
little things like that. I
brought them back the first time, but now they're spreading everywhere, plus some wild vegetables. Like we said, there are Venus's navels that can grow in the walls. There are all the dandelions, all the little leaves like that that grow.
Evening primroses, we were late and saw carpets of them. Now there's still one behind.
At ground level, you can see the ecosystem evolving. We talked about trees growing better, but what about your vegetation? Species that arrived independently too?
Each year I find species here that I hadn't seen in the past decade. And I see in the spring there are little woodland flowers that start to appear, that start to form small clumps. And so that's really the deepest joy, because that's it, it's happening, it's changing. The land is gradually, naturally being brought to a forest system. There are birds that start spreading little seeds everywhere. The soil itself is starting to change color in some places, so that's it, it's really underway.
Another biodiversity creator, that's it.
Of that below.
You can see he has vegetable gardens nearby, and that question comes up often. Or comments from people who say that as a result, in a fruit forest, well, in a forest, so there's not enough light to grow vegetables. How do you grow vegetables here? What's your take on that?
The forest and trees aren't fully mature yet, but for now I have a small experimental fruit garden just behind them, surrounded by trees. The goal is for it to get as much shade as possible to try growing things underneath. So I don't grow directly on the roots of the trees. It's just a small circle actually, where inside I still grow things, as if there was a small clearing still. There are several specific features. It's that it's surrounded by trees, so there's still a lot of shade during the day. It's still staggered. There are times when some areas are sunny shaded, and I'm going to come and prune as much as possible. That means here all spring I prune. During the summer I let it grow back so there's more shade to protect. Another special thing about this garden is its little fence that will go all the way around little by little, which is made of branches. It's pruning leftovers. I started doing that because after pruning I don't have a shredder to make wood chips. Either I make piles that accumulate somewhere, or I do something with them. And I build small walls with them to support biodiversity and all stages of decomposition. On the ground it rots, but higher up it gets drier. And in my opinion there are plenty of insects that can come and settle inside. There's another advantage I noticed too. It was in the spring. I had potatoes here, I had potatoes further on. Let's say that here it was in the forest garden, the rest was more out in the open field, let's say not protected. The potatoes here didn't freeze, but the ones over there did. Afterwards it didn't affect the amount of potatoes that were produced. Both produced the same, so yeah. But in any case there is a protective effect for plants that might be more sensitive to that. So here we see butter beans. That's a variety that can produce late. And we have cabbages. And honestly, I'm pretty happy so far. Honestly, it's going well.
Do you have problems with pests here, like deer or rabbits?
No, I don't have any. I don't have a problem with that, so it's not an issue. I'm lucky the deer don't come this far. I have a badger on the property that made its latrine in the wild part, so I think its den is really not far, maybe 100 meters away. He caused some damage to my beehives. I had 3 hives and one of them died naturally. The other 2 were knocked over by the badger and it ate mine. It really enjoyed itself. But I'm actually glad that I'm not the only one out there. It makes me happy that there are animals around. I know that even if there is some damage caused, there are also positive things, actually quite positive things in the end. And I'm very happy to share everything I produced today.
Well, listen, it's beautiful anyway. Yeah, I see that you have quite a few areas that are mulched. Well, straw or hay, I don't know. Do you get hay here and there, or are you self-sufficient with mulch? No.
I'm not self-sufficient with mulch. That's also why I want to plant more trees, so I can really create this mulching material. Still with the idea of not having any inputs, because I think it's nice to mulch, but going to get that straw from outside. But the straw we take, we should actually leave it on the land so it protects the soil where we've already harvested the grains. So it's a bit nonsensical, even if it's useful for now. And when that's all you have to make do with what you have. Someone gave me straw, but sometimes I buy some myself because I don't have a choice. I want to mulch, but really the goal is to be able to mulch with what's available on site. So that's still a whole job in itself.
Yeah, being self-sufficient in mulching, it's a
small job too. We're in a section that's about 6 or 7 years old. So we first started by making a butterfly-shaped mound here. We made the wings and everything. We started by planting the first row of vegetables, and then later in the fall we planted blackcurrants. There's a row of black currants, and between them I planted trees that are now 6 or 7 years old. So there's a hazel tree that's starting to produce hazelnuts, there's Alizé who's in the peach tree, there's a plum tree behind, and there's a big ash tree right there. It's a big one, right? An ash tree that's going to grow tall and will serve as a support for a small grapevine that's planted underneath. And I'm going to gradually add more cuttings. There were raspberry bushes, but they've mostly withered. If we keep going a little further this way, we'll come to one of my favorite fruits, which is also a guava, a Brazilian guava called feijoa. So it has some small fruits here. Yes, they're starting to form here, they're not very big. Still, it's going to make some small fruits. This is a tree with evergreen leaves. It seems to me so, maybe I'm talking nonsense, but anyway, it produces fruits that can be as big as an egg or even bigger. If they really have a lot of water, there are smaller varieties. What's interesting is the taste. The skin is tangy like lemon, while the inside tastes like banana. This fruit tree is great for home when fully ripe, but avoid planting it in limestone soil. It tolerates 16, 17 and 18 degrees, and if established, will regrow from the base even after freezing. It likes water, but is also drought resistant. That means even if you see it dying because you haven't given it any water at all, that's never my case, but it will still come back the following year. So that's from experience. And just below there's a small variety of vines. So most people don't like this variety. That one is the Phillips. It's part of the olivettes. They have a little pointed tip. And when ripe, they taste more like blueberry than grape.
It went by too fast.
That's why I'm showing you more. This is the Phillips variety, one of the prettiest. And it tastes like blueberry, so does anyone want to try it? We'll stick with Phillips. It's a disease-resistant, good variety. Look at its leaf. You can see that it's sturdy, almost looks like a Virginia creeper.
So does that make it one of the forbidden varieties, the banned grape varieties?
I don't know if this one is one of the banned grape varieties because
the banned grape varieties mostly don't need grafting or treatment, if I'm not mistaken.
Apparently, I'm not really enough of a specialist in the field to truly confirm those statements because there's a lot behind it. On the other hand, we can take cuttings from them and usually there's no risk of phylloxera. If the varieties are American, as they say, and it's on these varieties that we've also grafted many other varieties, so those are supposed to be resistant anyway, in my pack. Well, but we'll see. I think it's quite a
sensitive topic. Is
in the area that for me is currently the most developed in terms of layers. That is to say, there's a big cherry tree there. We have some small raspberry bushes coming up right now, which used to be really covered with raspberries here before, but now they've declined. They're being replaced by buckwheat, which grows back every year. Underneath we have a little Maronia, that's it. It's a plant that can tolerate almost complete shade, and it produces small fruits very early in the spring and flowers during the winter. So very interesting. So here we're already in a small forest. This year I began pruning the lower parts of the fruit trees, which were more like bushes. Up until now, let's say these are young trees that are no longer streamside trees. Here on about 30-40 square meters we have roughly that. I think I counted about 20 or 30 fruit trees last time, so we have one fruit tree. Here, it's the suero tree, which also serves as my sacrificial tree. We pruned it and placed all the wood in a circle for that purpose. We have an almond tree, a cornelian cherry, a medlar, we have currants, we have black currants, and we have a vine that's gradually climbing up the almond tree. Behind we have... So the tree produces berries that taste like burnt caramel, so you have to like burnt caramel to like it. But in any case, it's a beautiful plant that stays green for a long time. Behind that tree there are several feijoa guavas that are planted. So I don't know how many I have, but I think I've passed 10. So we have the Mahonia that I didn't count earlier. We have the Raguminia, and under the Raguminia, in some places, there's Hutuinia growing. So it's a plant that's often used in garden centers. As a decorative, it's more of a ground cover. It absorbs a lot of water and it tastes like coriander. When you eat it, there's a peach tree behind, 2 or 3 peach trees. There's also the Judas tree, which is a nitrogen fixing tree, but it's also a tree where you can eat the young snow peas before they get fibrous, and you can also eat the flowers, I think. There's rhubarb growing too, so this is really an area where all kinds of things grow. Always. Summer is over, but it's very early in the spring. There will be garlic mustard, which is a wild plant from our area that settled there on its own and started 1 year from a small clump. And now it's starting to take over the whole mound, so I really hope it's the one that will dominate in that flower bed. And not have to bring in other ground covers, but let nature find the ground covers for me. There's also Aronia. That's right. Aroma, that one. Aroma that spreads out in all directions. So here's what it looks like. A 10-year-old fruit forest. I can't wait to see it in 20 or 30 years. So here we are in a recently planted area. So we planted this last fall. And it was just to show a little bit. Here it is. What we did is we started making big holes. We planted and on top of that we put a lot of branches. So we came and we cut branches here, willows. We cut them roughly. The goal isn't to grow crops on top, but to have them on the ground. This will give all these little trees a chance to grow properly.
So here we are in the youngest part of the garden. Yeah.
The most recently planted.
The border that's moving forward. We're at the edge of your property.
Yeah, here, we're at the edge of the property. We planted big trees, added mulch and straw, and now in winter we're making it thicker. Actually, because there are a lot of gaps in between and nature doesn't like empty spaces. That's to prevent it from filling up. In my place, I'm going to choose what will grow, and I'll come and take cuttings from the ground, from above the water, but also some small fruit trees like currant bushes, black currants, and all that. And I do this because it's already prepared. I can already take cuttings, and when I go to prune, I'll do it with the plants I already have in that section, a little older. Well, at some point, all this pruning, instead of throwing it on the ground, I'm going to come and I'm going to make hundreds of cuttings, take what takes. That's what I've been doing for a few years, and it works really well. The more we care for it, the more it grows, letting us prune and select what we want.
Great, that's how you multiply them. So is this Kargagne?
This is Kargagne. You can eat the snow peas, you can also eat the seed. It makes a mini lentil. The settlers, when they arrived in Canada, ate a lot of it. I think in America too, especially when they arrived in Canada. It was a food that for me, I
knew about, especially for the nitrogen. It provides nitrogen. And so that makes me think, in your trees, in your canopy, have you thought about trees that bring nitrogen among your fruit trees?
I have thought about it. They're not there yet.
But
they'll get there gradually. I'll replant some elms. I have around 10 elms scattered around. The idea is that later on I don't want to have more than 20% of emergent trees, so really big, tall trees. So it's going to be those trees, it'll be the alder that stands out here and there, that way to have 20% shade
on your fruit trees.
And after that it will go down next to it. Here we have a persimmon, I have a white mulberry, there's a grafted pear tree, and there's an apple tree from Kazakhstan. So it's not the prettiest one, there are prettier ones over there, and there are medlar trees in between, which aren't here to produce nitrogen. They also attract mycelium and mushrooms, effectively creating a mycorrhizal bridge between trees. They will facilitate exchanges between the fungi and surrounding fruit trees. So there you go. We can experiment by adding more nitrogen-fixing plants or rely on organic matter to provide the necessary nitrogen. Anyway, because there really is a large number of living things that die in the soil, leaves that fall to the ground and so on, I think I'll still add more. Knowledge joins in, since too much is never enough.
All right.
Well, that's crazy great project. Listen, we've pretty much seen your whole forest. Thank you very much for this.
tour. It really gives me some crazy ideas and a lot of hope, so that's awesome. Do you have one last message for everyone who wants to get started? What would you advise?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's one thing. The most important thing is to get started. Problems are solved gradually. When taking action, it's important to have already thought things through. Dream, get informed, and talk to many people. But it's only when you take action that you're really there. That's when you solve things. That's really the most effective way, so don't hesitate. You have to go for it.
Make mistakes, plant, and make mistakes again. Thank you very much for watching the video until now. So we've reached the end. A big thank you to you and lots
Of things.
for your whole project. It's great. If you liked it, you can say so. Don't hesitate to ask lots of questions in the comments. I'll pass them along. If you want to follow Bastien, Karmaterre on Facebook page, website, YouTube page, a little maybe.
Maybe we'll see.
Jay,
That's not a good camera.
it's in progress. I need to lend it. If you followed along so far. If you like it, you can subscribe to the channel, and if you really like it, you can support us on the Tapi platform. And as usual, a big thank you to everyone who already does, and see you soon for more videos. Bye.